All right, it's another release weekend at Canal Place. And just thinking about it, if I had a penny every time I said that phrase, I wouldn't have to sell beer. But we don't want to do that. So this release on Friday, April 8th is our third exotic matter in the series. If you remember over the summertime, we had our raspberry version, and then we pivoted to key lime, I believe, late 2020, early 2019. And key lime was kind of my favorite because it's such an interesting combination, and it didn't use a lot of key lime. The vanilla came through, it went great with the mosaic hops. So that one's going to be a tough one to follow. So we went through the untapped ratings of what we did in the Valley in the past couple of years, specifically our Death by Milkshake series, which is our Milkshake Double New England IPA series, and strawberry and strawberry raspberry as a combo rated pretty well. So we decided to pick that one. Now, before I go any further, what is exotic matter? What does that mean? Well, exotic matter is when you create new elements from smashing existing elements in nature together with a particle accelerator, and you get something totally new. Milkshake IPAs, in my mind, is kind of exotic matter because you're taking traditionally beer with just molten hops, usually clear traditionally. Then you're adding the New England yeast and hops on top of that to make it this murky, yummy mess with a ton of hop profile. And then you're adding a fruit into the mix that hopefully is going to pair well with all of that. So that's where I kind of got the name Exotic Matter for this entire series, because we're throwing everything, including lactose, into this beer. And as you can see, we've got a bunch of proton accelerators and particle beams just making something entirely new. So kind of sciencey, kind of fun. So we first made this in the Valley 2 years ago. It made its debut, well, the last untapped rating was February of 2019. It was a Death by Milkshake. And it was made different than this now. That was the early days of us trying to make milkshake IPAs and smoothies. It was totally new. We were trying new things. We kind of didn't even have the New England part of it, really solid yet. But you guys rated it I believe a 4.03 on tap. It was about 88-ish ratings, so very respectable. So from those 2 years and from scaling up Double New England's at Canal Place, we've learned a lot. And all of that went into this beer. Now, one thing about this beer style, I get asked a lot, what's your favorite beer style to make? What's the hardest beer style? Well, two answers for that. The hardest beer style for me to make is a good pale ale. Think Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That's been my white whale for 5 years. But I've got some good news on that in a couple of weeks. Now that's the hardest for me to make. There's a lot of balance in a pale ale. A milkshake IPA is the scariest for me to make because, like I mentioned, creating something new out of all these ingredients that you're throwing together, you've got to get the balance of the fruit. You got to retain the haze. A lot of Double New Englands or New England IPAs that you get, a lot of times by the time you buy them, it's a clear beer. So trying to get your process to keep that haze, to hold the haze, and then you're throwing fruit on top of it, which could change the entire mechanism of haze. Then you're throwing in some lactose, which is an unfermentable sugar. It'll give it that residual sweetness to balance any tartness from the fruit. So there's a lot going on. And then you've got what we learned from the Valley experiments, the Death by Milkshakes. The hop combination you choose for the fruit is of paramount importance. When we first made this in the Valley, which rated 4.03, we used Citra as the hop. And I don't know if I ran out of time. I'm like, I gotta pick something. Can't go wrong with Citra. If I remember correctly, even though it rated well, citrusy and a berry, it's not a good combination to pair. I should have paired the one in the valley that we made 2 years ago with a more appropriate hop or hops. So for this one, I did my research and we used Mosaic because that works well. It worked well for key lime to stunt any of that tartness. It worked well for, it was one of our COVID beers that was all Mosaic. And we also used two new hops, Belma and Strata, which have very berry forward profiles. So yeah, Belma and Strata completely new to us in the valley. We've never brewed with them before. We're like, hey, we're scaling this beer up. Let's try these two new hops and see what's gonna happen. What new element are we gonna create? So we did that and it came out a lot better than expected. I was tiptoeing around the fermenter for 2 weeks while it was fermenting, settling out. You ferment it, it's raw, you chill it. There's a lot of hop matter in suspension. It's really pithy, kind of bitey, but with all New England's that'll settle over time, so you can't get mental over that. So it's settled. We added the Madagascar vanilla, and that just smooths everything out perfectly with just giving a hint of vanilla. You don't want to go too vanilla forward. We find that vanilla, even though you may not detect it, you know it's there if we take it away because it gives it a very good smoothness to the beer. It rounds all the, the sharp edges. So with that, let's give it a try. I haven't had this it's been canned about a week and a half. I smell the strawberry from here. I'm not lying, I smell the strawberry from here. A couple of stats. We used about 640 pounds of strawberry for a 40 barrel batch, and I believe 88 ounces of Madagascar vanilla for a 40 barrel batch. So definitely the strawberries coming through. I'm excited. This has sat here a little while. It's probably in the mid to high 50s to really bring out the profiles of all the ingredients. That is nice. It's super smooth on the end, which is something I always fear when making a double New England of any type, milkshake, regular, whatever. I always fear of a sharpness at the end as a result of the hop combination, this or that, but this has smoothed out nicely. I even rolled the can before I brought them in here to pour them, so what you pour is what you get. That is an excellent beer. You're really gonna like this. As opposed to the raspberry exotic matter that we first started out with, raspberries, it brought too much tartness to the beer, and for a milkshake style, it's supposed to be a little bit smooth. You shouldn't get the sharpness or the acidity of the fruit. That's why it's so important to pick the correct fruit for a milkshake IPA. I mean, you wouldn't use lemons or oranges, I don't think, because you would think that would just be too acidic or too bitter, and there's not a lot you can do to counteract that. So picking a nice soft fruit is the way to go for these milkshake IPAs. Yeah, this is delicious. It's getting hot outside, a little fruity beer. This is perfect, 8.5%. Start it off as your first beer. It'll get you to where you need to go. Just riding it the whole night. And without further ado, food pairing. This is a fun one. Oysters, crab cakes, lobster, chicken. I'm an idiot. I just came back from Florida, Pine Island, the southwest part, surrounded by canals, and you're right there on the water. And instead of bringing this, which I believe I could have, it was canned at the time, it didn't even occur to me with the food pairings. I love seafood. I ate clams every day and fish, but I brought prime editing and I drank that, which is totally fine. That's a solid double New England, but I should have brought this. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't. That's the problem. cheese pairings, goat cheese, and bruschetta. See, it's that good. Strawberries on the burger. So great beer. Thanks for watching this review, and we hope to see you.